Coming up on this edition of Safari Changemakers.
It was more than a business, it was actually a purpose, and it was actually a force for good. Restoring biodiversity, improving lives, and creating an amazing guest experience and adding value to an area. So probably four promises. If we can do that well where we are, it is something that can be replicated and scaled, hopefully elsewhere.
This is Safari Changemakers. Conversations with Africa's most innovative visionaries, the guardians, pioneers, and trailblazers, offering solutions to the most pressing challenges facing the continent. Over-tourism, human-wildlife conflict, the climate crisis, and environmental degradation. Conversations that reveal bold strategies for sustainable tourism leading to economic opportunities for indigenous communities while protecting local ecosystems and wildlife. Here's your host, founder of Artisans of Safari, recognized by Travel and Leisure and Condé Nast Traveler magazines as one of the top travel specialists for Africa, Karen Jones.
I am here today with Tarquin Woods, and his wife Lippa is going to join us in a little bit. So how are you today? And tell us where you are too.
I'm very well, thank you. My name is Tarquin. We live in Kenya. We have a safari company. We do exclusive use properties, and we have a lodge. So that's where we are, and it's very good to see you.
It's great to see you too. You have a personal journey that's really behind Wild Hill and House in the Wild. Was there a pivotal moment involving wildlife conflict that led you to transform the struggling bean farm?
It's a story that started a long time ago. My parents bought this piece of land on the edges of the sort of ecosystem, of the Mara ecosystem. We grew beans there. I was working for the family farm, working for my parents, and it was a struggling bean farm. Our interest rates in Kenya went from 15% to 30%, about the same time as 9/11, and we couldn't really keep farming our way out of debt. We Lippa and I were working on the farm at the time, and we suddenly realized actually we're in prime sort of tourism real estate here, and we're not making the most of it. You know, we were on the edge of, we could see wildlife around us, we could see communities around us that were struggling from wildlife conflict, and we said, why don't we see and explore a bit of a leap of faith that we can. Here's Lippa, by the way. She's just joining.
Fantastic.
Here we go.
Hi, Lippa.
I'm very well, thank you. Lovely to see you. I'm sorry I've just been getting kids
That's
sorted.
Okay. I know it's a holiday there. Happy Labor Day to you.
Yeah, lovely to meet you.
Yeah.
I'm just telling the origins of our story. So we were farming. We knew that we'd probably lose the farm. So Lippa and I approached my parents and said, we would like to buy the farm off you and take it and create a tourism product that is going to add value to the wildlife around us, the communities around us, the land that we're on. We'd like to sort of increase the value of it and share this place with the world.
Actually, we were looking back today because it's almost 15 years since we took out the irrigation pivots, and it feels like so much has happened in that time, and we remember how scary and we weren't sure which way it was going to go. We were taking a leap of faith, going from agriculture into the unknown. We definitely weren't from ecotourism backgrounds, but the place around us was kind of at a bit of a tipping point. You had communities outside of the fence that were in conflict with the wildlife, not benefiting from it in any way. There was very little. Every time an elephant or a lion came up into the area, it was chased away, or it would get in trouble for eating livestock or eating the crops of the communities. And there was a lot of overgrazing from the cows.
I remember in 2012 we lost about 13 elephants around us, just through wildlife conflict, and this sort of inspired us to sort of see, be the solution to the problem.
Yeah.
I think that was probably the moment where we felt it was a stage in our lives where we just weren't sure what to do, but we knew what was happening wasn't right. And being on the edge of the Mara, we felt that the wildlife should be a benefit to the communities living there rather than a pest.
When you took this on, it probably meant that you had to spend a lot of time talking to the local community about these conservation partnerships.
We spent a lot of time trying to, obviously paint the picture of the future. But there was one moment where we climbed a hill, which is actually where Wild Hill is. And on one side of the hill, it's the forest has been destroyed. There's huge land segregation. There's been irrational selling of land, and it's all very fragmented and fenced. And on the other side of the hill, literally, if you look left and right, is the vast open plains of the Mara. And we sat with the community and we said, what would you like to leave your children? Money aside, what would you like to leave your children? Do you want to leave them the fragmented, sort of isolated, very exclusive sort of existence, or would you like to leave them, the management of collective resources, and roam your cattle over vast acreages, and embrace the wildlife? And unanimously, actually, we had about 20 people there, and they all said we would like to maintain the sort of status quo of everyone in the same boat. We're all in this, and that's when we created this company with the landowners, which is now our conservancy. And actually, the people on the fragmented side of the land, they've all joined us as well. So it's been a real success story, and our wildlife has come back. It's been massively successful in terms of the biodiversity that's come back into our area, and the communities are benefiting financially, through employment and through leases. It's been a big success.
It was incredibly challenging to start because we're starting from a place with no funding, no backers. There's a lot of skepticism. But at the same time, there was also hope because other conservancies had started in the area. So the landowners were familiar that these conservancies existed and they had a good reputation. There was hope, although there were people had said no, it's far too degraded or too much.
It's too agricultural, wasn't it?
It's gone too far to be able to go back. But
okay, so they didn't think that the wildlife would come back into the area. Is that what you mean? Yeah,
it was hugely degraded. The landowners were making money through, leasing the land for cultivation or clearing the trees for charcoal. But yeah, it was scary because we were making promises on hopes and believing that this would happen if we could give it a chance. But there wasn't much clarity till we got going, and it took a bit of sort of trial and error, pitching to investors, looking for grant funding, writing to donors, getting the community together. And slowly, after lots of rejection and lots of no's, we finally got one or two little yeses, and then a big yes, and then it all kind of came together.
We were told, actually, when we started the journey, that overnight success is 15 years. And that I totally believe in now. That it's taken a while before everything is now. It feels like we're in harmony with the wildlife. It feels like tourism is now we sort of hit a sort of critical mass of all our stars aligning, and it feels like we're in a good space.
I feel that many conservation organizations in Kenya are mostly donor funded. One thing that we're all quite proud of is that it's completely financially viable and stands on its own without having to go to donors now. The first few years it did, but then once the wildlife came back, suddenly it became a great tourism product, and the tourism pays.
So how does that work, that the wildlife comes back? Like, what is it that brings them back specifically?
Wildlife comes in a little bit like osmosis. Luckily where we are, there's no fences from where we are all the way down to the bottom of the Serengeti. So it actually all starts with grass. We have a lot of rain where we are, and if we can control the cattle and we can control the grazing plans, we actually became the best grass farmers in the area. We started to really concentrate on where the cattle were going, giving the land enough time to rest and to regenerate grass, and wildlife just loved that, and it came in, and you got first of all got the warthogs, then you got the impalas, and then obviously then the cats started coming in, and we were very lucky. Now it's full of wildlife.
It was amazing. Like the first year from farming, when we took the irrigation out, it was just bare ground. We'd had a monocrop there for over 10 years of French beans or maize. And so the first year was kind of thistle or weeds and bare ground. And then we actually brought the cattle community livestock in, and just worked on a bit of a grazing plan and a rotation, and I think one of the big wins was when the community agreed to put all of their cattle into one herd and manage it as a cooperative, and that was a big move, because in other conservancies there was kind of exclusion zones for cattle, but we just had cattle. We didn't really have wildlife, so it was, how do we embrace it and make it part of the story? Inongishu means place for healthy cattle. And we felt if the cattle could be managed well, the grass would recover and then the wildlife would come back. So that's kind of a summary of what happened.
Is that what you called this regenerative grazing plan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's about keeping the cattle in one herd and moving it every few days, and not going straight back to the same water source each day, because that just could overgraze and destroy the topsoil, the land, and it's giving the grass a chance to grow back, and also making sure that the livestock are safe from predators. That was a big thing. So having these predator-proof enclosures that have flashing lion lights to keep the lions away, and making sure that the herders are inspired to keep to the plan, keep to the program, be involved in measuring, find the champions who are really passionate about seeing the grass coming back, and getting them to lead it.
So rather than excluding grazing and making it a wildlife area, it's a combination. It's like a hybrid.
I honestly don't think we'd have the wildlife now if we excluded cattle.
If it's managed in a good way, where we're also encouraging quality over quantity, so the herd isn't as huge as it was, but it's probably double the value, because we've got better genetics, better healthcare, better programs, and actually it kind of mimics the big migration of the herbivores. You've got the cattle moving through, and actually you find that the zebra and then the little Thompson's gazelles, they end up following the herd, which is quite amazing. Where the kraals or bomas have been and they've moved on, those areas are full of dung and they've been trampled into the ground, and it's fertile, and the grass is amazing in those areas. So they're actually wildlife hotspots, which is quite fun to see.
What is a wildlife hotspot?
Just kind of a gathering of different herds on grazing this grass. So you've got a mix of topi, wildebeest, zebra, warthogs, impala, all in the same area where the bomas used to be.
Because the grass is so nutritious where the bomas used to be, that all the animals love that grass.
So when guests are coming to stay at House in the Wild or Wild Hill, are they mostly staying around the area?
They stay and see the wildlife in the area. So actually, one of our skeptics at the beginning said there'll never be guests will never come to this area. The wildlife just isn't here, and they'll have to drive to the Mara, which is an hour and a half drive. And we used to do that occasionally, but now you hear the lions at night. We have the camera traps outside the room. Leopards walk past, elephant walk past, everything has come back. So it's very rare on a 3-day safari for any of our guests not to see all 3 big cats and all the elephants. It's sort of plains game. One thing I think people say if they do go down to the reserve, it's a wonderful day. They see the landscape and the scenery, but it's kind of busy. There is over congestion at times of the year. And so we feel very privileged to be in the private Northern Conservancies where there's hardly any cars. I mean, at this time of year, obviously, it's completely to ourselves. But even in the busiest times of August and July, we have maximum 5 cars at a sighting. There's a strong code of conduct. All of our guides take part in training on guide training and safari etiquette in terms of not getting too close to the other cars or the sightings. And all of our cars are tracked and monitored. So there's a lot of systems in place. Also, our livestock are tracked and monitored, so we know exactly where they are. If the herders are doing the right thing, we use Earth Ranger technology. We work with Mara Elephant Project. So there's a lot of good stuff happening behind the scenes that we always love to share with the guests, because once they learn that, then they do feel a bit more inspired, and it just adds more depth to their safari.
Seems like just a win-win from every standpoint, because being away from over tourism, or being a solution to over tourism, a solution to human wildlife conflict, employment, wildlife coming back and regenerating. So there's a lot of competing interests, right? So you've got a lot of stakeholders, you've got the local communities, you've got conservation, government, guests. Are there competing interests and challenges?
Looking at it all from a holistic perspective, and I think one of the things, if you look at the communities and natural resources in the area, it's about how can they socioeconomically make the most sort of decisions based on improving livelihoods and improving biodiversity at the same time. It's will the land make more money through well-managed livestock and wildlife together, or will it make more money through charcoal burning or cultivation maize and then having conflict with wildlife? And if we can make wildlife and livestock be the win, then it's a win-win. But there are always competing things. I mean, I think the biggest challenge or the biggest threat to elephants is the crop encroachment into wildlife spaces. There's a lot of population pressure. There's a lot of work that's being done on women empowerment and girls' education and girls' empowerment at schools, which just also helps the socioeconomic challenges. If girls are empowered and ambitious and keen to find careers and ways to make money outside of using the natural resources, it's also a great thing.
Can you share a little bit about one of those programs or some of those?
We do a lot with the schools in terms of trying to improve access to quality education, improving infrastructure, also school lunch programs. We do libraries. I think last year we managed to raise funding for 8 new libraries at different schools. And these are conservation libraries. So they bring Wi-Fi, solar-powered Wi-Fi to a school, and that opens a whole world, as you can imagine, to an area that hasn't had Wi-Fi before, to suddenly have access to the world, which is really exciting. And the girls, when we started, I think the secondary school was built through guests and through guest donations. And I think there's 1 girl at the school, and now there's 350 girls. So we love the fact that you ask the girls now what they want to be, and instead of just saying, I'm going to stay home and do the cooking and the cleaning, they want to be pilots, doctors, lawyers, managers. So it's good to see that coming through, and it's super exciting. And also, we work with a lot of the women who used to do charcoal burning, who now do work with providing or creating entrepreneurship programs to make candles that the lodgers will buy through beeswax and making honey, and also doing beading work, soap making that support the tourism. So just different business ventures that will help them make good money that's supporting ecotourism rather than against it.
Our story is a story of progress. Our story is a story of change. Currently, we are working with 8 schools in the community. We teach them about this wildlife and the importance of this wildlife. We have cleanups in the community. We have cleanups in schools. We teach the community why we need to clean up the environment. Women in the Wild is a community-based organization whereby we're working with community women and empowering the community women. So we do tree planting. The Wild Shamba for us is where we grow our food for the guest at House in the Wild. So we plant our own vegetables in here. We do our own herbs. And this is where we also bring the community to come and see and learn how we can do organic crops to help them in their own lives.
Wow. What a different life for you two than being farmers.
Yeah, no, it's been an extraordinary transformation.
I
But
mean,
one that's very satisfying, actually.
being out, I mean, working the land is probably a wonderful thing, being a farmer, but now you're hoteliers, conservationists, community builders, are marketers and have to be out there marketing and speaking, and it's just a totally different life, right?
I think when you love what you're doing and it's super inspiring, and it's an incredible community that we're very privileged to be able to partner with. And we both grew up in a world where it was all about development and progress and making good change. So, and also we love pleasing people. So we are definitely people pleasers, and I think that's what a lot of people in hospitality do.
True. And your former team that was your farm workers I understand they're now in hospitality.
Yeah, I mean, for example, our head waiter, he came in. He was our weeder, and then he became head weeder, and then he became head grader. He was grading the beans to go into the punnet, and then now he's head waiter, and he's fantastic. I mean, and that's one of several examples. You know, they've we've just taken our team and run with it.
And our manager, who was one of the first people to start the farm with Tarquin when Tarquin was straight out of university, he's now in charge of logistics. And it's gone from bean farming to setting up wow moments for guests. And, he's passionate about it.
So how did people get trained, and even you all, in tourism and sort of switching, from that world to this world?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. If you have a look at all the Bush and Beyond properties, in fact, I think none of us are hoteliers,
Right.
which is quite a fun thing that we're breaking the mold a bit, and there's a lot of exciting things that we bring to the table that aren't traditional hoteliering things. So yeah, it's been a great sort of transformation, very satisfying.
And I think it's been gradual. We've been fortunate to be doing this over 10 to 14 years now. So it's been, starting slowly. We started with a mud hut and a long drop loo and serving, I was cooking pasta for the guests. And slowly, thank goodness, people who are way better than me at cooking are now in the kitchen. And it's just evolved. So it's been a lot of learning and a lot of, but, our team, like all Kenyans, incredibly warm, passionate, can-do attitude, and keen to evolve with us, which has been so special because it's all like one big wild family.
More Safari Changemakers after this.
Safari Changemakers is brought to you by Artisans of Safari. Beyond the map lies adventure. With nearly 40 years guiding travelers into Africa's hidden sanctuaries, we craft journeys as individual as your fingerprint. Expertly designed, deeply personal. Connect with Karen at artisansofsafari.com for your collaborative consultation. Your safari, your story. Artisans of Safari.
You also did something, I believe, which was selling plots to investors to help pay off the debt while you were creating sort of the wild villa collection, which is kind of a pretty interesting business model.
The farm belonged to my parents, and we didn't really have the money to pay them.
Mhm.
So the model is we would sell it to like-minded sort of safari investors, if you like, that they can come and build a house on the property, and then every time we sold a property, we sold a plot, we would pay my parents. There's some great houses in there that we now rent out and part of our portfolio.
When we took on the farm, we had a scary debt that we had to pay off. So the only way to do that was really to sell these properties. So the alternatives were selling the whole farm. It might have gone into greenhouses, to coffee farming. It could have been sold to the wrong developer, gone into the wrong hands. So we tried to do it as eco as possible. They're all eco houses, and they're hidden, and it's a opportunity for us to now have these villas to run and fill with guests and manage. We provide the menus, the guides, the staff, and it's great for this foreign investor because they come out maybe once or twice a year, enjoy their house like it's a kind of their own hotel, and in the meantime we pay for the staff through, or it covers all their costs through visitors, and also it generates conservation fees.
Yeah, I had a nice family stay in one of them about a year ago. I just find it fascinating. I mean, it's just so much more for people than just what they think an African safari is. And coming to a place like yours in Kenya, and can they go and see a lot of what you've done?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have when we were farmers, we also did a lot of livestock, and we actually have an area of the farm that used to be part of our Mara beef farm. And that's now been converted into a kind of inspiration center that tells our story. And it has the Women in the Wild Beading Project there, the candle making, soap making, the tree nursery. So guests can go and enjoy a morning there beading and having a good time.
So doing all of that, seeing wildlife, what
Yeah,
else?
maybe.
Yeah, we do e-buying, horse riding, and basically just getting a bit of an immersive experience with our lady there who runs the show. She takes you through a bit of a tour of the story we've just sort of described to you, from when we started farming, and it's a great experience of knowing what we've gone through.
Are there ways to participate specifically beyond just learning about what you're doing?
No, 100%. We have ways that you can donate, anything from buying a desk for the school, or buying a month's worth of lunches for the school, all the way up to donating a container library, which we do as well. And then you can get involved in the sort of conservation side. We have a sort of bit of a menu of all the things you can join in and get involved in and support.
Do people get to see things like the lion lights that you talked about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they get to see the cattle programs, and and the grazing programs, the school libraries, all that.
What trends do you see in tourism that you think are the most promising right now?
I think the trends that are coming in are exclusive use. I think it's the renting a house, renting a villa with your family, multi-generational, and I think that's a huge trend that's gonna catch on, and we're fairly poised for that, actually.
Yeah.
We have, like Lippa was describing, we've got these houses that we rent out. We've got the Wild Hill, which is again exclusive use.
Yeah.
And I think that's the next trend of these multi-generational groups going around, and they want to be exclusive.
I mean, I think Kenya seems to have more of it than just about any other of the countries in Africa so far. Have you had some challenges at all working with, like Kenya Wildlife or the Kenya government, or they tend to be more helpful?
The
government doesn't really get involved. They
It's all supportive generally. I think we're in a lucky position. Kenya Wildlife Service do a great job where we are, and the wildlife all belongs to the government, and if we're protecting biodiversity, then they'll support.
Which is fantastic. So if your resources were completely unlimited, what conservation or community project would you implement next and why?
I think early on in our story of doing collection in the wild and growing in collection in the wild, we very quickly realized that we had more than just, it was more than a business, it was actually a purpose, and it was actually a force for good. So to work out that our promises and our commitment was about restoring biodiversity, improving lives, and creating an amazing guest experience and adding value to an area. So probably four promises. We do feel that if we can do that well where we are, it is something that can be replicated and scaled, hopefully elsewhere. So we dream of doing more, opening up other areas for tourism that might not have had tourism, or areas that are threatened and on the edge that could benefit from some sort of conservation fee tourism product. Those would be probably in our dreams.
We've been there for such a long time, and watching agriculture come in and cut down forests, and it's a necessary evil, but it's also born out of necessity. So if we could reverse that and give the landowners and the farmers a competitive alternative and bite back agriculture, I think that would be a dream of ours.
Obviously, our family is farming elsewhere, and it's growing crops to feed a nation that needs food. But in certain areas where we are, it's not great cropland. There is human wildlife conflict all the time. So there is a better land use where the communities can do better, rather than growing unsustainable crops that don't work well in that area. I mean, we get huge rains, huge droughts, a lot of that back and forth. So there are better areas to farm.
What's one of the better areas in Kenya to farm?
The highlands are brilliant. We're on the equator with great rainfall and great soils across a lot of Kenya. So it's a very productive country. It's one of the biggest exporters of coffee, tea, flowers, and those are all creating amazing jobs for people. So I understand there's issue with miles and food miles and flower miles, but at the same time, it's creating incredible employment, incredible opportunities. So it's all a balance.
It's all about economics, really. If our area, I don't think you can do a lot of the crops that are high value, and it's more subsistent farming. I think that you can make more of a livelihood through conservation.
And so, in addition to employment and some of the other things we've talked about, the conservancy fees as well are proportioned back into the community.
Almost 100% of our conservancy fees go towards leasing land.
All 100% does. So I think last year, just through what was previously the farmland, which is now Naratoy and House of the Wild, it contributed $500,000 to 700 families, and they were not getting that income before. So I think it's exciting thing to say that in 200 jobs with us, there are probably 100 further jobs on Naratoy. Then there's the rangers, the schools, guests who come to visit, like I mentioned earlier, want to support. And on the back of guest donations, we've done the libraries, the school buildings, the clinic has had an upgrade. So I think tourism is a real force for good if managed in the right way.
Like a complete turnaround. That's huge. Absolutely huge. So I asked you what your dream was. So my last question is, just looking ahead 10 years, what legacy do you hope House in the Wild and Wild Hill will leave on the Mara ecosystem and the community and the broader safari industry?
I think collection in the wild is a little bit of a disruptor. It's brought in a different sort of level of tourist, that we've gone for the exclusive use. We're expanding that way. It's going for, I feel, more relevant tourism today than just another tented camp. We've got more activities, we've got more relevant and appropriate products that can help conservation, and I think that there's not many companies or tourism products that are thinking like that, going forward. So it's a very different experience staying with us as it would be staying with another tented camp in the Mara.
You know, if I look back to we have a big wall in our conservation centre that has our theory of change. And one of the squares at the bottom, it was one of the preferred outcomes, and that's increased in tourism numbers. At the time when we did that, we had very little tourism numbers, and suddenly we're running 40-50% occupancy, our villas are busy. And so now it's, instead of increasing tourism numbers, I think it's increasing tourism revenue. So maybe getting more per guest, not wanting to fill it with more guests, but getting more per guest type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guests staying with us longer.
We don't mean to be greedy in that way, but if we can have lower impact and higher value for conservation, that's a win.
I think just in general, people want experiences that are less sort of consumptive and more where they're getting involved, where there is a deeper element to the trip. Luxury is really important too, and I think that lodges and properties have to be able to have that right combination. That it seems, and we haven't really talked specifically today about, you know, what is there at, say, Wild Hill, for example. But I will be sharing some video and such as part of this for people to see, as well as on your conservation projects. But I think it's, you know, those elements are definitely very strongly wanted, needed, and I've been having really good success with this type of product over the last like 3 to 5 years, very much so.
That's great news.
There's over tourism everywhere in the world. And when I did on my way to Pure last year, we went via Paris and Barcelona, and I was part of a group, and we were, you know, wandering around Paris in a big group, learning about the old town. And I was one of maybe 50 groups. So we were in India year before last, and it was one of the most amazing times of our lives. But we saw pressure that they have on their conservation areas and their tigers, and how they manage it so well in certain areas. And I think it's about how it's managed, and but also thinking for the long term. We're all in it for the long run, and we want it to last for future generations.
Well, I know it's getting to be probably evening your time. It doesn't look like it's quite dark out there, but I'm sure it's going to, you probably have some dinner to have, and it's only 8:30 in the morning for me, so I'm going to make another cup of coffee and start my work day.
It's lovely to meet you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to chat to you.
And please pop in when you're next in the neighborhood.
Well, that's our show for today. Subscribe on YouTube and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Till next time, I'm Karen Jones.